I recently had the opportunity at the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games to test out both the Rogue Fitness Echo Bike and the Assault Fitness Assault Bike, and after a very comparable test, I'll, without a shadow of a doubt, say that I will always pick it. What's up, crew? Welcome to another video. My name is John Connie, aka Big Man Syndrome, and if you're not a part of the crew, well, join the crew, and at some point I will catch up with the burpees. So I recently got the opportunity to test both the Rogue Fitness Echo Bike and the Assault Fitness Assault Bike. Did a very similar test of fitness on both of them. Of course, the variables were a little bit different, but this isn't science, so who cares? And what I'm talking about is on the Echo Bike, I was simply going up against myself, sort of had a time to 50 calories in mind, trying to go up against, the internet. And on the Assault Bike, I had somebody else I was going up against, so I can see their intensity, I can push myself a little bit harder based on that. But what I can provide for you at least is my off-the-cuff sort of experience with the two bikes and what I feel are different with the three categories that I've decided to base them on. Number one, that's functionality within a workout. Number two, the build. And number three, the challenge that the apparatus provides within the workout. Let's kick it off with number one, the functionality within a workout. And what do I sort of mean by that? Of course, this is coming from a CrossFitter standpoint, not really any other sport. I can kind of speak to those other sports, but as far as what I would want within a CrossFit workout, here is the breakdown. The Echo Bike was very high quality, but it felt loose immediately when I jumped on it. It almost felt similar to what a Concept 2 bike erg, I think that's what you would call it, but the bike version of the Concept 2 feels when you're pedaling. It's almost like once you hit the speed that you want to maintain, it's not very hard to maintain that speed. And of course, the only difference here to the Concept 2 is that it has handles. I was labeling the Echo Bike as a cross between a Concept 2 erg and the Assault Bike in the fact that it's got handles and it rides like a bicycle. So in that sense, I don't feel like I would be able to push myself really hard on that bike if it was built into something like a Metcon where you're trying to hit a certain number of calories as hard as possible, as quick as possible, jumping into another movement, and then another movement, getting back on the bike. I feel like it's more of a rest or active recovery type of piece of equipment. Obviously has its use outside of CrossFit, but in my opinion, it is not something that I would typically use for CrossFit. And the reason is, when I get on the Assault Bike, and this is where the comparison comes in, the Assault Bike feels like no matter how hard you're pushing that bike, either at the lowest end or the highest end, no matter how much torque you're putting in with your legs and your arms, it constantly feels like you're pushing up against something. The resistance is just always there. Even when you jump on and you pedal just a little tiny bit, you're still feeling a bit of resistance, which is going to give you a little bit of a workout. And this is really important for many reasons. Two specifically, one, you know that you're constantly going to be fed resistance by this bike, and you're going to be pushing yourself no matter what level you decide to pedal at. And number two, as a gym coach or owner, you're going to know that there's no way that your members are going to be able to sandbag if they're using an Assault Bike. And category number one, Assault Bike definitely takes the cake. Moving on to number two, the build quality. This is where the Echo Bike might be able to hold some ground, but only a little bit. When I initially jumped on that bike, it felt sturdier and it was quite comfortable. And this is where I say a little. So like the build quality felt solid. It's Rogue. Rogue Fitness is known for having quality products. Whenever you have a Rogue Fitness piece of equipment, you know that you've got quality in your hands. But being comfortable is not what I want when I get into an intense workout. Seat was like sitting on a cloud, which was amazing. Pedaling and pushing or pulling with the handles felt effortless, and the bike itself is really quiet, even when you're pedaling super hard. It's sort of just this like nice ambient Dyson fan in your bedroom. But at the end of the day, this isn't really what I want when I'm getting into a workout. When I jump onto that Assault Bike and that first bit of pedaling, it takes a minute for you to get up to speed because you got to get that chain rolling. And as soon as you get up to speed, you've got this loud, heavy sound of, fitness effort going. And the seat's not very comfortable, but why would I want a comfortable seat when I am pushing as hard as I can on this thing. And like I said, if that's not what your goal is, if your goal is to have more of like a active recovery type of thing, like I hate 10 minutes on the assault bike. I'm not a fan of that. But when I sat on the Echo bike, I felt like I could probably go for like 10 plus minutes just to get a good, blood flow going. Here's a little callback to the resistance and how it ties into the build. When I pedaled as hard as I could on the Echo bike, I felt like I was losing torque. I was losing that power that I was trying to deliver into the bike. And a part of that is because it is belt driven, and a belt just means that there's a pulley and a belt. Sometimes there's a groove that the belt sits into the pulley system, and that's what drives the wheel. This has a tendency to slip. On the assault bike, it's a gear and a chain. It's chain driven, which means that every single tooth is going to latch onto something and constantly grab. And as long as that chain and sprocket is very, very well maintained and high quality, it's constantly going to grab. The only time that you would get chain slip, as in you've probably ridden a mountain bike and had the gears kind of catch, is if you've used the hell out of it and you kind of eat away at those teeth and you don't maintain it well enough where you have some grease that keeps that erosion from happening. Too much on that topic. That's not what we're talking about here in the video, so let's get back into it. When I pedal as hard as I can on the assault bike, I feel like I'm delivering every ounce of torque that I can into that bike, whereas with the Echo bike, I felt like I was just pedaling into nothing. The calorie count, you'll even hear me say it, I said this thing counts so slow, and that's because I potentially was putting more power than that bike could handle. Not to toot my own horn there. It felt like I wasn't really able to deliver everything that I can into that bike. So in that respect, the build, I feel like it might be a little bit of a draw because they live in different realms, right? As far as the Echo bike, I would love to have that in my arsenal for active recovery. To be able to use my arms and not just my legs allows me to use a full body active recovery versus like if I jumped on a Concept 2 erg, I would only have my legs, and it sits really like a road bike, and that's not very comfortable. But that comfort does not lend me to want to push as hard as possible if I'm going in a workout, and the fact that the difference between that belt and the chain driven aspect, it really feels like I'm able to actually push harder with the assault bike. Not really a winner there. So let's move on to that last one, and that's the challenge. I'll let this truck pass by, which I don't even know if you can hear it on this microphone, but trash truck, so I think it's gonna stop a minute. Okay, I think it's gone the other way. So the last section is the challenge aspect, and that is two sort of categories within that category. First of all, the challenge that it presents to me as an individual trying to push as hard as possible, and I kind of covered these in both of the previous categories, and obviously assault bike takes the cake as far as it pushing you to push a little bit harder, push, and that just comes down to what the drivetrain is, and that's belt versus the chain. And the second part is the actual challenge that I took on, and that was first to 50 on both of them. I didn't really technically finish either one to 50 calories because on the Echo bike, I was going up against, the internet, which I think the top time at the time was 37 seconds. And at 37 seconds, I was at 45 calories, and I just sort of like pedaled through the rest. So there isn't really a time frame there, but to say that 45 calories is about where I stopped for me going up against Matt Bickle. In 45 calories, I was at 37 seconds on the Echo bike. For 47 calories, I was at about 30 seconds, maybe 29 seconds when Matt's judge put his hand up to say finished. So if I would have continued to pedal at the pace that I was, I'd say I'd probably be at about 32, 33 seconds. So that should show, and this is sort of a biased, I guess you could say. You know what? I'm going to leave number 3 up to you guys to take the winner. Let me know down in the comments what you think this test says about the bikes, because I could go both ways, honestly. The fact that it takes a little bit more effort to get to that number on the Echo bike versus on the assault bike, it seems to be a little bit easier. Or is it because I'm able to deliver more torque into the assault bike, therefore putting more resistance on my body and making me work a little bit harder for the number, whereas the Echo bike feels a little bit more loose and feels like I'm just sort of pedaling through, murky water? Which side are you on? What do you think is sort of the the takeaway there. All I know is at the end of the day, even with these 3 categories discussed, I will always choose the assault bike as far as being a CrossFitter and wanting that constant resistance within a workout. It may suck in a 10-minute, active recovery day where it doesn't really feel like active recovery. It feels like constant resistance and the seat isn't very comfortable. But again, let me know down in the comments what you think is the winner when it comes to the first to 50 challenge, depending on what side you were leaning on. And let me know also what you thought of my points in the first 2 categories. And if you like this sort of thing, let me know. If this video tooted your horn, tap and go that like button, leave a comment, share this video. Those are the things that help grow the crew. And until the next one, I'll see you later, crew. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. I really hope that was a good video. I feel like I drag on so much. And I took notes. Like I had a monitor for what I was trying to say. But I still just blah, 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 blah. In today's video. Okay, bye.
Instincts going no, looking bad like a bat with an iPad.
Recording. We've got everything going. So I recently had the opportunity to test the Echo bike by Reebok Fitness on, and there's almost 0 away. And this is why you turn the camera on before you start really recording.